Hello guys, and welcome to this tutorial on how to style the young version of Wei Ying. The first thing we're gonna do is to sew some extension clips inside our wig, because the ponytail might become heavy, so the clips are for extra support so the wig doesn't slide off. For that we're gonna need some extension clips, which you can buy separated or remove from the extensions we're gonna use later, and a needle and thread to sew it with. And this is what you're gonna end up with. Make sure to try on the wig so you can point out where the clips need to be sewn. Place the wig on the wig head and secure it with some needles. The best way to secure a wig is to place a needle at the center of the wig, both sides of ears and in the back of the neck. Now we're gonna make a temporary ponytail. For that, I would recommend that you get yourself a big elastic. The reason for the ponytail is so we can place the wig in the center of the wig head, so we can be sure that the ponytail is placed correctly when we are done with the wig. That's why it's good to make a temporary ponytail, so all of the hair is out of the way of the hairline. A good and easy way to make the temporary ponytail is to turn the wig head upside down. Now when the hairline is visible, it is easy to see that the wig is not placed centered. Therefore, we're gonna remove all the needles and place the wig correctly. Make sure that you don't rush this process. Just take your time and the result will be better at the end. I place both of my fingers at the ears and use them as a guiding line to see if the wig is placed centered. When I think the wig is placed centered, I put all the needles back in place. Make sure that you push the needles in the opposite direction of where the wig can slide off. This technique is to secure the wig from sliding off for when we are gonna make the ponytail. Then we can remove the elastic and brush the hair out. For the next part, we are gonna use a comb and a hair dryer. The wig does already have a side part, but I would rather create my own. So for removing the one it has, you simply take the comb and brush it through the parting, while using the hair dryer to heat the hair up so it's easier to move. And this is how it's gonna end up looking like. Then you can just gently brush it through so it doesn't tangle at the end. For the next part, we're gonna separate the front part from the back part, so it will be good to have a tail comb and some elastics. The wig has a semicircle area of beige color skin top. From the circle down to the ear, I made a straight line with my tail comb, and I do that on both sides. Try make the line as straight as possible from one ear across to the other ear. Put an elastic around your finished part to separate it from the rest. When you have got both parts, then you can put an elastic around the back part so it doesn't get in the way from the front part. Then do some final touch up, such as making sure that the line is straight from ear to ear. When you are done, secure the front part with an elastic so it doesn't get in the way for when we are gonna make the ponytail. In my first Wei Ying wig tutorial, the one after his reincarnation, I made the ponytail first and then after I thinned the wig out. But later I thought it might be best to thin the wig out before making the ponytail. So that is what we're gonna do now. And to do that, we're gonna need our tail comb, a thinner scissor, some elastics and some hair clips too. We're gonna start from the bottom and work our way to the top. Use your tail comb or fingers to separate the hair into sections. You can follow the hair lines the wig has. Start with small chunks of hair and brush through it so the combs can slide through it without being stopped. And after that you take your thinner scissor and cut it thinner. Make sure you don't cut the hair shorter, cause then it will not be able to reach the base of the ponytail. Here I am checking to see if the hair is still long enough to reach the base of the ponytail. A good idea will be to check each chunk of the lower layers. When you have reached the middle, unclip all the hair and brush it. This will help you to save time, and so you don't end up with one big tangle of hair when you are done. Then continue to thin the rest of the hair. We have reached the point where we're gonna make the ponytail. For that you're gonna need some elastics, your tail comb and some tape. This time we're gonna work our way from the top to the bottom, and I start with taking my tail comb and separate the top layer from the rest of the hair, and I simply use the hair lines as my guideline. When you got your piece of hair, make sure to brush it out so it is easy to work with. I will recommend to take a brush instead, since we're gonna work with bigger pieces. This is a really long process and you need to be very patient with it, so just take your time. When I have brushed it out and made sure that it's smooth without any bumps, I take an elastic and tie it up, and this is gonna be our base. Remember to check if you have placed the ponytail in the center. Once you wrap the tape around it, it's gonna be too late. Then take a tape and roll it around the elastic. You might be wondering why I'm using tape. Well, Wei Ying's ponytail doesn't go flat down against his head, it goes straight out into the air and down. Wrapping tape around the ponytail is gonna help us making the ponytail go out in the air. I used sports tape to begin with, but since it wasn't stiff enough to keep the ponytail in place, I switched it out with some painting tape. It's called painting tape in Danish, and I do not know what it's called in English, so I'm just gonna call it painting tape. And as you can see, it sticks a lot more into the air now than what it did before. Then take small pieces of hair and brush them upwards and toward the base. When you have smoothed it out, combine the piece with the base with an elastic. Brush it through carefully so you don't create any bumps. Repeat the step on the other side. And then you shall have something like this. Then continue with the rest of the hair. When you reach the bottom, it might become more difficult, so for better result, put some more needles to secure the wig from sliding. And remember to stretch a little bit in the wig cap before placing the needles. When you reach the last layer, brush it through so the comb can slide through without stopping. And when it's time to place the piece to the base, brush it upwards and secure it with an elastic. Then take some hairspray. I use some Got2be Hairspray and spray it lightly on the back of the wig. Then I lightly brush the hair upwards so it can stay in place. Take the ponytail back and brush it, but you still have to be careful when you brush it. To finish the ponytail, we're gonna grab the tape and wrap it around the base. And that is how you make the ponytail. Now we're gonna hide the tape. I did plan in the beginning to use extensions for that, since I also used that method in my other Wei Ying tutorial, but I only have one left, and at that time I just graduated and was without a job and money, so I couldn't afford to buy any new ones. So I waited with the extensions for the styling part, and instead I used some of the hair I cut off when I thinned the wig out. I took my glue pistol and gathered small pieces of hair to wrap around the tape, and I did that until the entire tape was covered. Since I only had that one extension left, I decided to cut it in half. This part might be a bit tricky, so please pay close attention. First, you're gonna turn your extension. Then you glue the extension in the opposite direction, so when you flip it back, it will give more volume. Please pay close attention to what I do in the video, cause it is a bit hard to explain. And this is what I meant. When you flip it back, it creates more volume. Then glue the other half on. One last step before styling is to take some of the hair we cut off and wrap it around the ponytail tight and secure it with some glue. We have reached the final step of the ponytail, and that is to style it. So find the extension we glued on and separate it from the wig. Then take a scissor and cut it shorter. First, I clip it to one side and then to the other side, so it will have different lengths for when I style it. Then brush all the loose hair out. Then I take my teaser comb, and if you don't own one, you can just use a normal comb. Then you just have to tease the extension, make it wild and puffy. This step is up to you on how you will do it. I took small pieces at a time and glide the comb up and down for it to tease. Try use some hairspray along the way. Just have some fun while you style and be creative. Play with the hair and just keep going until you are satisfied. And when you are satisfied, finish it off with giving it a huge amount of hairspray. Then take your red ribbon and tie it around the ponytail. And now it's time to style the front part, and for that I prefer to wear the wig. It's always a good idea to find lots of pictures. The first thing I'm gonna do is to create the side parting he has. So I'm gonna take my comb and hair dryer to create the side parting. Then I'm gonna take the hair piece on the right side and clip it backwards so it doesn't get in the way for when I style the left part. Take a comb and brush it, and then take a scissor and start cutting. I use the razor method, and that's when you glide the scissor up and down to create more layers and wispy ends, so it doesn't have a straight cut, cause I'm not a big fan of that, but that is totally up to you. Remember when you cut to leave a few centimeters. You can always go back later and cut it shorter. Then I start taking small pieces and cut them in different layers, and I use the razor method for that. Remember to brush all the loose hair out after each cut. Then I take my thinner scissor and start thinning out the hair. When I'm satisfied with the left side, I begin on the right side. I start with brushing it, and then I just roughly cut it off, but of course some centimeters away from the actual length I want. Then I just take the piece I want to be the bangs and clip it away so I can focus on the side. Once again, I'm using the razor method to cut off the extra hair and give the hair the layers and wispy ends that I want. Then I'm just making sure that both sides have the same length. After I have done that, I start taking small pieces and cut them in layers, followed by the thinner scissor. and I just repeat the same step over and over again. Sometimes I use the hairdryer to keep the hair in place. Now for the bangs. I first take my hairdryer and blow it to the side, so it stays over at the right side and don't go running to the left side. Then I take my scissor and start cutting it shorter, but still with a good amount of centimeters left. I chose to work with small sections at a time, and I started with the front part and clipped the rest away so it wouldn't get in the way. I took my thinner scissor and started thinning out the front piece. Then I took my normal scissor and started cutting it shorter, but still left some centimeters. Then I started working on a different section, and I just repeated the same process. And before I continued to cut in layers, I took a small chunk, and that is gonna be his antenna. I wrapped an elastic around it and tied it at the bottom. Make sure the elastic matches his hair. Then I cut off the extra hair. I take my little China scissor and start cutting the end so it has a more spiky end than straight. I then spray some hairspray on the tips of my fingers and then transfer it to the hair and start twisting it. Use the hairdryer to set it. You can play around with it until you are satisfied. Once I'm satisfied, I go back and start cutting the bangs in more layers, using the razor method. Remember to brush between each cut. I switch between my normal scissor, thinner scissor and my China scissor. Slowly I'm working my way to the final result. It takes time and you need to be patient, but in the end it's gonna look beautiful. When you are satisfied, give your bangs a last brushing and maybe use the hairdryer to blow the hair flat towards your head. Now we have come to the last part, which is styling. The first thing I'm gonna do is to straighten the bangs with my straightener. The wig is heat resistant. I put my straightener on 120 degrees. I thought the bangs needed some final touches, so I went back and thinned it out and cut the ends with my China scissor. Then I took my straightener and started to make a small wave on the different pieces to make it more puffy, and to top it off I ruffle it with my hand. Then I used some Got2be glue and started styling it. In this part you just have to play around with it until you are satisfied. I switched it between Got2be Hairspray and Got2be glue. To give the left side a more puffy look, I took my hairdryer and separated the hair into sections and blew it upwards. Earlier I clipped the antenna away cause I was scared that I might cut it by accident, and when I removed the clip it turned out like this. Well, I just have to style it again then. Now I'm just giving the wig some final touches and secure it with hairspray. And this is the final result. Thank you so much for watching. Wow, I can't believe it. I'm finally done with all 3 Wei Ying wig tutorials, and out of all 3, this is the longest. What a journey! I hope this tutorial was useful, or at least it could inspire you to one of your other projects. But as always, if there was something you didn't understand, feel free to leave a comment and I will answer it as good as I can. Do feel free to leave a like, and if you want to see more upcoming videos from me, feel free to subscribe too. If you do plan on follow this tutorial, then I will really appreciate it if you will send a picture to me with your final result. It's such a good inspiration to me, and it makes me so happy every time I receive one of your messages from my previous tutorials. Please don't feel shy about it. If you're curious about my cosplay pictures, then you can find all the links to my other social media accounts in the description box. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.